Hello, Thomas fans, and welcome once again. I think it's safe to say that anyone who reviews and analyses various pieces of media has at some point made a list of their favourites in whatever area they specialise in. Since I'm a proper cinema goer nowadays and love reviewing shows from my childhood and teen years, I thought now would be a good time to make a list of my 10 current favourite movies. Now, of course, I have to address a few important things. First off, I have not seen every film ever made since the word was first invented. That is physically impossible. Unless you are Carl from Family Guy. It's all down to taste of what genre of film I prefer. Films like The Avengers and Star Wars don't appeal to me because I don't find action films that tasteful. Your favourite film of all time probably isn't on this list at all. In fact, I think you'll be lucky to have seen at least 3 of these. Every single film on this list is live action and does have a slight adult theme, so I might do a top 10 of animated or family films at some point, if people would like that. Anyway, let's get ready to rumble. Number 10. Doctor Who, the TV movie. Now hold your horses, don't hit that dislike button straight away. When I did the introduction, did I say that every film on this list officially aired in the cinema? No, I did not, so hear me out. The 1996 TV movie was the first piece of classic Doctor Who I ever saw, and even though I knew the original series wasn't quite the same as this, I was still hooked. After the series was axed in 1989, American producers decided to create another series in the 90s, with the TV movie as the pilot. A malfunction with the TARDIS leads to the 7th Doctor landing in San Francisco in 1999. When he's there, he is shot by a gang member, and after being operated on in hospital, he regenerates into a new body. Meanwhile, the Master has gained a new body temporarily, and hires a gang member to steal the Doctor's body, and begin his plan to destroy the world. Now it's fair to say that this film received a lot of criticism. People called it too American, called it too different from the original, called the Master too camp. An official series was never made. At least not until 2005, the series we have now. I, on the other hand, loved this, and that includes the changes they made. This was sadly the only time Paul McGann played the Doctor in an official story, but what we did get with him was still incredibly enjoyable. He is comfortably up there with the best incarnations of what is one of TV's greatest characters. Number 9. License to Kill. The James Bond franchise is easily one of my favourite series of films, and I always enjoy the experience when watching one. In Timothy Dalton's second and final adventure as Bond, he has his license to kill completely revoked when he chases the villain of the film, France Sanchez, after one of his CIA friends is brutally attacked by Sanchez's men. I always take back everything I said about action films, because the amount of drama and violence in this one is definitely the thing that wins me over. This film is unique in that it is the first to not be based on an Ian Fleming novel, and you definitely get the sense of that in this. Bond is no longer a light-hearted, posh, sophisticated spy. He is a man out for revenge, and will do whatever it takes to right the wrong. In my view, this one is severely overlooked when talking about the best Bond stories. Number 8. The Back to the Future trilogy. I'd say all 3 should be put together because, put simply, they are all cinematic classics. The first time I saw these films was in my school film club, and it was probably the first blockbuster film I'd ever seen. There is something that I always enjoy about time travel stories, and this was my first exposure to the concept. I think almost everyone knows the story of this series, so I'll explain it briefly. Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox, meets his friend Doc Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd, who has built a time machine as the DeLorean, and in the 3 adventures, the 2 of them travel through a variety of different years, to ensure they fix the present day. If I had to pick a favourite out of the 3, I think I would choose the second part, because I really love how they keep going back to parts of the first film and add a little twist to them. But like I said, all 3 of them deserve to be on this list, because they were what made me realise how good some adult films can be. It was a turning point that fixed my future. Number 7. London's Burning, the TV movie. Yes, another film that only aired on television, but London's Burning is easily one of my favourite drama series of all time, so of course the story that started it all will be on this list. The best way I could describe this is, it's an episode of the official show, but twice as long. Like you'll get with Stonewall, there are about half a dozen storylines going on at the same time. You get Fireman Lewis, nicknamed Ethnic, who has to keep his job a secret from the rough council estate he lives on. You get firewoman Josie Ingham, who has to struggle with the fact that she is Blackwall's first female firefighter, just to give you an idea of how different things were in the 80s. You get fireman Cartwright, nicknamed Vaseline, who's getting married for the 3rd time to a 3rd girl called Marion, and that's just a few examples. Every member of Blue Watch gets focused throughout the film, and it encourages you to tune into the episodes that follow. One thing I will give away is that it doesn't have a pleasant ending. Just prepare yourself for that if you do ever watch it. Even though this was the only story to have the original writer on board, the pilot movie is a very good taster for the 14 series that came out afterwards. Number 6. Skyfall. 2012 was a pretty big year for James Bond due to the 50th anniversary of when the first film was made, and it was also the year that I became a fan of the film series. After watching various programmes discussing the show, I decided to watch the newest 007 adventure, Skyfall, in the cinema, and the minute I walked out of the screen, I knew I was going to be watching these movies for the rest of my life. At the start, Bond is shot and seemingly killed in action, but while he is gone, an attack on MI6 takes place which convinces James to return to work. What is different about this particular story is how personal the whole story is. We look into Bond's past, we look into M's past, we look into the villain Silver's past, and I love that. The action, of course, is top notch, even though the Aston Martin being blown up was a pretty sad moment. Skyfall is great in that it wraps up a few stories, but also introduces new elements to enjoy and look forward to in the future. And I imagine I wasn't the only person who became interested in Bond in 2012, so this was the perfect film for first time viewers. It gave us an idea as to what previous films are like and the impression that the next film will be just as good. Number 5. Happy Death Day. Now I might someday decide I actually like action movies, but the chances of me liking thriller, horror or slasher movies are probably even lower. However, I flippin' love Happy Death Day. I first came across the movie when they were promoting it on Facebook, and even though I wasn't that interested in going to see it, I liked the concept of it. Jessica Roth plays Teresa, named Tree by her friends, a student who was brutally murdered by an unknown assailant on her birthday. Or so we think. She wakes up as if nothing has happened, and then it dawns on her that she is stuck in a time loop and reliving the same day each time she gets murdered. It is up to her to find out who her killer is and bring an end to her time loop. The reason I finally decided to watch it this year was because of the sequel, so I bought the DVD, watched it, and then went to see the second film in the cinema the very next day. That is how much I liked this film. What I expected from this film was just blood and gore throughout, but to my surprise, they don't really dwell on that at all. What makes Happy Death Day for me is Jessica Roth as Tree. We see her progress from being rather self-obsessed to actually a really likeable young woman by the end. The second thing I love is how funny it is. They really didn't have to make it a black comedy, but they did, and that's why I keep watching it. The second film was also very good, but the slight changes didn't really improve it or make it any better than the original, but that's my opinion. If you're okay with jump scares and the concept of death and you want a good laugh scare with it, then Happy Death Day might just be for you. Number 4. 1. Yes, that's what it's called. In case you couldn't tell by 2 of the 3 movies I've made, I am quite a big fan of documentaries and films based on true events. This movie from 2012 is an in-depth analysis of Formula 1's long history. Even though it focuses on the famous drivers, people and circuit, you can probably tell that the movie is mostly looking at how safety in the sport has changed. From the 50s to present day, the filmmakers look at every major or fatal accident in the sport, the impact it had, and what changed because of it. I know what you're thinking. Yes, this is what mostly inspired me to make Sodor Safety. There was something about one and the detail that was put into it that made me think, I could do that with Thomas. The people being interviewed for the film were great as well, and props to the filmmakers for managing to get them to corroborate, because this is a story that needs to be told. By the end, when it seems that safety has been improved and the chances of fatal accident are significantly lower, as an audience member, you can't help but applaud the safety officials and car designers from years past who have made everything safer and made more people want to tune in to watch F1. Number 3. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. Although I haven't found the time to watch the first movie yet, I can tell by the second adventure that I will probably enjoy it when I do. 4 students are in detention when they come across an old game console which includes a game called Jumanji. When it starts, however, they are sucked into the game and become the characters they chose to play. It is up to them to play through the game to get themselves home without losing their free lives. The first reason I really like this film is the humour. The message of the story is basically to discover who you are. And the 4 characters discover this by becoming someone they're not. The timid nerd becomes Dwayne Johnson, the shy, rather inactive girl becomes Karen Gillan, the tall, sporty kid becomes Kevin Hart, the hot, popular girl becomes Jack Black. I love that idea. The action is also really enjoyable to watch, so of course I'm looking forward to the third movie coming later this year. Number 2. Murder on the Orient Express. Another film concept I have a slight guilty pleasure for, murder mysteries. The Agatha Christie stories of Hercule Poirot have probably been retold 100 times, but this was a very good way to introduce me to the character. Poirot's old friend Bouc is the train director of the Orient Express and finds the detective a room on the train. While he's there, another passenger is murdered, and of course Poirot has to solve the crime. That is all I will tell you. I know I warned that there would be some spoilers in this video, but you guys should have the opportunity to check this one out for yourself. There is a lot of stuff I refuse to give away. Kenneth Branagh directed this version of the story as well as playing Poirot, and I am very hopeful that he will recreate a few more of his intriguing stories in the future. Fingers crossed. And my number one favourite movie of all time is Rush. 2012 and 2013 were two breakthrough years for me. I'd finally become a fan of the wonderful sport that is Formula 1, and by the end of that second year it was all I could talk about. So of course I was delighted when I found out they were making a film of one of the sport's most famous rivalries. Unfortunately it had a 15 certificate, so I had to wait a little longer until I could see it. Yep, I was pretty livid. In the 1970s, two very different racing drivers, Niki Lauda of Austria, played by Daniel Brühl, and James Hunt of Great Britain, played by Chris Hemsworth, meet in a Formula 3 race. They have an incident, and this starts off a rivalry that is still talked about and reflected on today. Eventually, they both get into Formula 1, and in 1976, they're both battling for the World Championship. I will probably make a video in the future looking at the things that were changed for the film, but that is literally the only bad thing I could find. What is great is that the two drivers do share the spotlight, and as audience members it is impossible for us to choose a side because you simply do not need to. The main reason this is my current favourite movie is not because it's a famous story brought to the big screen, it's because of the atmosphere, the intensity and the drama. If you were to watch the races that take place in this film, some people might just look like cars going around the track, but the directors and producers filmed it in such a way that Formula 1 now looks epic and cinematic with close-ups, freeze frames, bombastic music. I applaud Ron Howard and the rest of the team for the amount of effort they put into this. The film didn't get that many awards for it, or that much recognition, but to me, that's irrelevant. Rush met my expectations at the start, and exceeded them only a few scenes afterwards. It is a shining example of a period movie done right. Yes, certain details have been changed, but if you do that to make the movie slightly more interesting, that is not a bad thing. 5 years later, and Rush is still yet to be picked as my favourite movie of all time. Filmmakers, take notes, you've got work to do. So there you have it. Those are my top 10 or top 12 favourite movies as of May 2019. I imagine this has been a fairly divisive list to some people, but as I said, my tastes are just different to other people's. So what do you think? If you've seen any of the films on this list, what did you think of them? And if you want my opinion on any films you like, feel free to ask me in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.